Well, if you'd have asked Argyle and Huddersfield fans before the season that they would play each other in November with both sides looking for a first win in a month, I'm not sure many would have believed you. However, that is the case at the Aku Stadium this afternoon. The 27th of September was the last time that either of these sides picked up 3 points in Sky Bet League One. Both are on multi-game losing runs and are in desperate need to get their seasons back on track. At least one of those runs will come to an end today, and you'll find out who over the next couple of hours on Argyle TV. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Charlie Price. This is the pre-match show on Matchday Live from Argyle TV, and it is a fourth straight away game for Plymouth Argyle today. Previous three have all ended in 2-0 defeat, so you would forgive some supporters from thinking that a trip to Huddersfield is a step too far. However, this is Plymouth Argyle, it is the Green Army, and 1,200 of them have made the 350-mile trip north, hoping that today might go their way. And there is actually a little bit of hope around this fixture. Huddersfield have been on the slide since a very decent start to the season. Just one win since the beginning of September for them in the league. However, they did win midweek, but both Argyle and Huddersfield on losing runs in the league. So, an intriguing one to look forward to. We'll have all the action for you. Team news in just a moment. Match passes are available to purchase online, both audio and video. Just head to pafc.co.uk for all of the details. Well, joining me for all of the build-up is the former Argyle striker, Ian Stonebridge. Ian, thanks for being with us. I suppose if either side were looking for a fixture that may be the one to get them going again, I'm pretty sure both would have chosen this fixture.
Yeah, I think you look at the form of both teams, and there's perhaps hope for each of them in that. So yeah, fingers crossed it's Argyle that can be the ones to capitalise on that.
Yeah, we can't build it up. It's been pretty drab from Argyle over the last month. 3 consecutive 2-0 away defeats. What can be done to change it?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think the head coach has obviously focused in on things they can control, and I'm sure that's the message that they've been given to the players, both in terms of the work they've done in training and you know when they're talking about the game, looking forward to facing Huddersfield today. It's those things that, you know, the effort, the work rate, the intensity, those things that you can always bring to the game, you know, regardless of whether you're playing well with the ball or not. It's those things, showing the fans absolutely that they care so much about the club, which I'm sure they do. There's passion on both sides there, and again, that number of fans going up there is absolutely awesome, isn't it? So that support, I know they'll get behind the team right from the start, regardless of how things have been going recently.
Yeah, and it is, I think, quite pertinent to focus on the supporters. In that we saw at the end of the Wycombe game, a couple of Argyle players went across to try and calm things down. There was a lot of frustration, a little bit of anger boiling over in there as well. But you know, they do travel, they do pay their hard-earned cash. They, you know, 1,200 again going up when you're on the back of a 4-game losing streak. Not many clubs would get that. I've put it to a couple of players and Tom Cleverley in the past that they deserve something here, and they do. And you're right, the players no doubt know that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Tom Cleverley himself has said in the last week he completely understands that. So it's not a nice situation for the supporters. It's not a nice situation for the management staff and the players. But it's understandable. You know, expectations I think were high going into this season, and the club at the moment are not where they want to be. So you know, as we say, the effort, the commitment that the supporters make to get to these games, and you know the amount they care about the club, they're absolutely entitled to be frustrated. And I think the thing that we want, and I know, you know, for me, there's no question from the start of the game today, when they're there at the start, Argyle supporters will be right behind the team, and then it's on the team to make sure they give them something to get behind in today's game.
Yeah, let's have a look at the team then. That will be looking to get the crowd going. It is familiar surroundings for Argyle supporters to be in an away dressing room. It has been quite a while since they had home comforts, but Joe Rolls came into the Argyle squad this week. There were questions whether he would be involved. As you can see there, he's not. Argyle have made 4 changes from the side that were knocked out of the FA Cup last weekend. There's a return, a first start, in fact, since the Wimbledon game the end of last month, beginning of last month for Law McCabe. He comes back into the side. Malachi Boateng also recalled into the midfield too. Joe Hatch, who'd been out on loan, returns and goes straight into the squads on the subs bench. It's another one of these kind of lineups, Ian, where you're looking at it going, it could be a 4 at the back, it could be a 3 at the back, it could be a 5 at the back, it could be, as we've put it out there, it could be something else. There is flexibility in the Argyle 11, but what do you make of the side?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm pleased to see Law McCabe back in the team. Yeah. I think that there's obviously loads of talk around solidity and around the need to improve Argyle defensively, but I think part of that comes from being able to control a game a bit more than we have been able to, and so being in possession. If you've got the ball, the opposition can't have attempts on goal; they can't score goals. So Argyle need to spend, I think, more of the game in possession, in control, building their own attacks. And I think him being in the team certainly allows us to do that with a bit more purpose, perhaps. Doesn't mean that there's not other things that need to be, adjusted and worked on. But I think from a point of view of setting up a team that has that chance to go forwards, have that purposeful possession, deny the opposition the ball at times in the game, I think he certainly gives that possibility. You
look back to the last couple of matches at Argyle that you probably look at and think that Argyle have done well in. The Burton game obviously comes to mind, their last victory. Law McCabe played in that, started in that, played well. Bradley Ibrahim played in that, played well. The Wimbledon game, for the first 20, 30 minutes or so, those two were in there playing well, doing well. That sort of feels like a formula for what has gone well for Argyle, having a couple of players that can handle the ball in difficult situations.
I do think so, but equally I completely understand a management staff and a squad where things don't go well defensively, and so you look then to become more solid, and in setting your team up to be more solid, you are doing your best to not concede chances, not to concede goals. But then if you do, which Argyle have tended to do, it then does mean that you're slightly limited perhaps in your capabilities to get back into the game. So whether there's a slightly different approach, and we are going to look to try and keep the ball and try and build attacks in the way that we've seen Argyle teams do, at various points over the last few years, that would be great to see. Equally, he's a young player, and I know he understands the game well. He'll have instructions defensively, and likewise, I'm sure they'll be really keen to try and keep that clean sheet today that can give them the foundation to get a result.
Yeah, and that is key. It's the foundation, and we've spoken a lot about Argyle's defence over the last few matches, and there's 2 goals in each of the last 3 games or 4 games, but there's also been 3 games in which Argyle haven't scored a goal. And I was doing a little bit of digging and trying to see whether we were anywhere close to being near the bottom of XGs or big chance created and all of that. And we're not actually. So the stats don't necessarily reflect the overall feeling within supporter base and across most, I suppose, people over the last few matches that we're not that creative. But I suppose the question is, why then are we not? Why is the eye test saying we're not? Creative.
I think it's interesting where often we get caught up in the emotion of games and frustration of results. So as supporters ourselves, we don't always see the game as objectively as we might. So I think the stats sometimes can be really useful. And I think for me where they could be particularly used is the management staff will have some key stats that they're interested in for what they want the players to do, the style, the things they want to focus on, the way they want to play the game. And if there is that light in the stats on those fronts where they can be going to the players and say, look, it's not all doom and gloom. We are seeing these objective bits of data that tell us you are doing these things well. That can be the kind of psychological boost perhaps that can trigger something. So they're absolutely important. I think the tricky bit is always, you can pull whatever stat you want and prove almost whatever point you want to make. So as you say, the eye test of how that comes together and how that turns into a coherent team performance gets a result at the end, that's the thing that Argyle are obviously looking for at the moment.
I was unable to find a stat that would go to the narrative that I thought I had with this. But anyway, let's turn our attentions to Huddersfield. Let's have a look at their side. They picked up a really important win, actually, midweek in the Virtue Trophy. It was their first win in 6. And Lee Grant's made 3 changes from the side that lost last weekend in the FA Cup, 4 from that midweek game. No Alfie May, he's out suspended. Joe Lowe has picked up an injury as well, he's not involved. Dion Charles, interestingly, having scored his first couple of goals for the club midweek, gets a start, we think alongside Bojan Radulovic as a fairly potent, or at least attacking looking lineup for Huddersfield Town. Another name on there that Argyle fans will be familiar with is number 14, Mikael Miller. They've been in poor form, really poor form. However, that's on paper looks like a really attacking lineup, and there will be that little bit of confidence from that midweek win against Mansfield.
Yeah, I think there will. I was pleased to see Alfie Mill's not playing. He's been a really good striker, prolific at this level, certainly in recent years. So that's a good thing. But having said that, as you say, Dion Charles getting the first couple of goals and that good result in midweek does give them something to cling on to. So he certainly looked lively in the clips from the game that I saw. Has been dangerous has scored goals. Crossed paths with Argyle in recent years as well in his time at Bolton. So he's definitely someone that Argyle are going to need to take care with this afternoon.
And Mikael Miller, someone that Argyle fans will know a lot about. Not a lot of players in this squad would have played with him, but if his time at Argyle is anything to go by, he'll be looking to try and feed the likes of Radulovic and Dion Charles and whoever's in that box with those kind of flashed-in crosses that he became famous for.
Yeah, definitely. I think he obviously didn't have quite as many games, a bit of an injury hit period with us, but the striking thing was whenever he was in the team, he's very direct. We know he's quite pacey, but always looked to put the ball in early into the box. And again, that's something that Argyle, I'm sure, will have been aware of. They'll have talked about, and they'll be looking to try and stop that supply line for Huddersfield this afternoon.
Right, let's get the thoughts of Tom Cleverley now. And he's done a couple of things differently this week in the build-up to try and change the fortunes potentially of the Argyle side, and he's been explaining a couple of them to Ron McNichol.
Is there a sense right now of just trying to change one or two things where possible because the run's not been so good, but at the same time sort of keeping a line to your philosophies, as it were, not ripping up everything and starting again, but recognising that things need to change a wee bit?
Absolutely, yeah. I will be judged on results, so if I could do the best preparation of all time and lose the game, and then it's not been. I could do what I feel is going against everything I believe in the worst preparation and win the game, and it's been successful. So I wouldn't want to start doing things in the week I didn't believe in, but you're right, we are being a little bit creative. We're tapping into the psychology of the players. We're trying to go above and beyond to get us out of this, and we've got a group of staff that are willing to dedicate their lives to do that.
There's the two teams that might be a little bit bereft of confidence, but we'll go there knowing that they had a great start to the season, didn't they? So their position in the league is still reasonably good. What are you expecting from them, given everything that's gone on with them at the moment?
Yeah, I expect intensity. I think when you're low on confidence and form, the things that you really have to double down on are those that you can control. So that is running, that is dueling, that is communicating, and I expect them to be as intense as we need to be as well. I saw that in their Bolton League game. Thought for half an hour they were excellent against one of the best teams in the league. And I feel for Lee a little bit, he's the only person who could probably compete with my injury list. And so it's a difficult moment for both of our clubs, and we know the way that we get out of that, and that's a good performance and a win, and I hope we'll be preparing towards that being us on Saturday.
Talking of preparation, Ian, he sort of touched on it a little bit there, Tom Cleverley. Like, you can have the best preparation in the world, but you could still lose the game. So take everything with a pinch of salt. But there have been a few things done differently this week. They travelled up a day earlier than they normally would, so they could stay up on Friday, have a kind of more relaxed, not in traffic for hours on end, kind of do a full day session. They had a talk from Royal Marine Commando Andy Grant yesterday as well, maybe just to kind of put a little kind of life into perspective and form into perspective. Are these things that you experienced as a player potentially when things weren't going well? Something for just to change things up?
Yeah, so I think first of all on kind of the travel side of things, it's a perennial problem, isn't it, for Argyle in terms of the distances, the time that takes. It felt like almost every away game was, it was a minimum 6 hours for us. It felt almost the same wherever you were going. Do remember, after a particularly poor spell of away games when Paul Sturrock came in, we did change that routine, and actually we went the opposite way. Trained later on a Friday, ate at the club, and then travelled late, and then went basically straight to our beds when we got to the hotel on the Friday night. So that was something. Well, it worked in the respect that we started doing better away from home. So whether it was that, whether at the time, I think Mickey Evans also came back. So plenty of people would say he was a big factor in us being able to be more effective away from home, changing formation as well, which I think at that point was something that was needed. So those changes do make a difference. They mount up, and I think in terms of the change they made this week, to some degree it might just be the novelty, the slight difference in routine, get them out of the routine they've been in that hasn't been as productive as they would have liked, and into something slightly different. And again, in terms of external input, I think it's up to the players to be open to those things, and in the position that they're in, I would hope that all of the players are they're always looking for ways of improving themselves. And I think if you've got an open mind, it's not going to be absolutely everything that's relevant, but you can look to other disciplines, to other sports, to other roles, other people's life experiences, however different they are from the world of football, and there can be something you can take into that. And as you say, I think maybe even the slightest bit of we're playing a football match here. Let's make sure we keep that in perspective. Yeah. We all care tremendously about it. We know the supporters do, but there are other things that are more important or have been more important, and so a bit of that perspective may be helpful in maybe just de-emphasising the problems around the club at the moment.
That chat actually with Andy Grant you can see on social media right now. Let's go to the Huddersfield side of things and hear from their head coach Lee Grant.
As much as we're having a conversation ahead of the weekend about turning form around and putting smiles on faces, they'll have the same conversation down in Devon this week as well.
100%.
How much does that become a factor?
Well, look, there's probably two sides to it. I mean, look, our form has not been where we've wanted it to be, and I'm pretty sure their manager will be saying the same things in his press conference. Us, however, we're in a position where I think, if we're being honest, Plymouth Argyle fans would snap their hands off for. So we've got to be mindful of that and know that we are and should be confident and have full belief and trust in where we are and what we're doing and what we've produced over the course of this season to this point. We just have to see it more often. We have to see it more consistently. We have to own that as well. We've acknowledged it. I've acknowledged it. And I'm glad to see that the guys on Tuesday really took that. And even when you get some adversity in a game, managed to wrestle momentum back, fight their way back to really good control and dominance, and go on and win the game comfortably. So, look, we know it's going to be a real test. I don't think their form makes them any less dangerous or doesn't reduce the qualities of their players. Highly technical team, lots of really talented young players. One or two senior ones in there. They've added in another one today, which will give them a bit extra as well in the changing room. So look, we know the threats, we know the qualities they possess, but again, for us, the confidence and the belief that we've shown across plenty of occasions this season should be there within the group. And they should trust and believe in themselves to go and deliver it on Saturday.
Interesting form them this season, Huddersfield. Lots of expectations. Got off to a flyer. Won 6, I think, of their first 7 games in the league, and then since then 1 win in their last 6. So and most of those defeats. So they've obviously in a bit of a slump, but that fast start means they're in still a very, very good position. Tricky to kind of place, where fans might be thinking or where they might be thinking where they are. Yeah,
it is. In terms of that form, I guess they're perhaps to a degree feeling similar to Argyle at the moment in terms of having been maybe slightly hard done by in some of the league results. Argyle know they need to turn around their performances. Huddersfield, I think, to a certain extent, will be happy following their midweek result against Mansfield. Good performance.
How big do you think that could be? Even it's a different competition. Virtue Trophy is not seen as one of the big ones, but it's a win. It stops the rot of losses.
It does, and it's the same. It's similar players. It's a similar squad involved. There's not that many changes in their lineup from that game to this. So the confidence they get from having taken on that game and put on a good performance, regardless of the competition it's in, I think is important. And in Dion Charles, as a striker, whatever game it was, scoring a goal is a nice thing, and it gets you that confidence going into the next one.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, we are pretty much done here on the pre-match show. We'll have full commentary for you. If you haven't got your match passes already, go and get them. pafc.co.uk. Audio and video individual match passes are available to purchase from there. But remember, if you are an Argyle TV subscriber, you get every match as part of that subscription. So it's well worth it. Lee Makel, the former Huddersfield Town and Argyle midfielder, is alongside Rob McNichol for commentary. It's been 39 years since Argyle won in the league at Huddersfield. It's about high time we got it this time.